Okay, so these are the first two questions that Mr. Doolan asked you to answer. Okay, I'm going to try and answer them for you in this video. But before I do that, the whole thing about it is we're talking about the area of a triangle. If I take a step backwards for a minute and I ask you, what's the area of a rectangle? Okay, you would probably tell me it's length by height. Okay, so if I put some numbers down there, instead of length, let's call it 10. And let's call it height for 5. Area of the rectangle, length by height, 10 multiplied by 5, which is equal to 50 units squared. Okay, so 50 units squared. Now, if I split that rectangle in half, okay, I split it in half, what would be the area of this space here? And then this space here? Well, it would be half of the 50, wouldn't it? So it would be just 25 and 25. Both of those would be 25. Now, if you look, that is a triangle, isn't it? And if I think about it, how would I get the area of a triangle? Well, it might just be 10 multiplied by 5 and half your answer. Okay, and the area of a triangle is half the base multiplied by perpendicular height. Now you have to take into account the word perpendicular. Perpendicular means straight up and down, okay, or 90 degrees. This height here is straight up and down compared to this base. Half of the base multiplied by the perpendicular height, which is the same thing as taking a rectangle and splitting it in half, and that gives you the area of the triangle. Okay, so let's look at our question here with area of this triangle. The area of, if I turn this into a rectangle, okay, if I did this, and I wanted to get the area of that rectangle, it would be 10 multiplied by the side height, which is 7. 10 by 7 is 70, okay? And if it's a triangle trapped inside, it's just half, which is 35. Okay, but what we'll do is we'll use the formula to work out area of this triangle. Half base by perpendicular height. That's my symbol for perpendicular height. Half the base by the perpendicular height. So half the base, well, a half of 10 multiplied by 7. Half of 10 is 5 multiplied by 7. 5 multiplied by 7 is 35 units squared. Because we are talking about area, and area is always measured in units squared. Okay, move on to the next one. This triangle now is a bit odd looking. It's leaning over on itself, but it really doesn't matter. Remember the formula. Half the base by the perpendicular height. Half base by perpendicular height. Well, half stays in front. Base. What's the base on this triangle? It's 8. Multiply it by the perpendicular height. Now that means the straight up and down height at 90 degrees to our base. Here it is. He gave it to you. 5. Very easy. So half of 8 is 4 multiplied by 5. 4 multiplied by 5 is 20. 20 units squared. Okay, and don't forget the units squared. So those are our two answers to the first two questions. 35 units squared and 20 units squared. Now I'll do the next two in a second. Okay, so here's the next two questions that you were given in the assignment. And what we got is a picture of a triangle. We know the base is 20 centimeters, and we know the height is x, which means we don't know what the height is. And it tells me that the area is equal to 150 centimeters squared. So in order to work this out, you really need the formula. So half base multiplied by perpendicular height. Now the half isn't going to change, so I'm going to rewrite the half. The base, this time I do have it. Okay, and the base is 20. Multiply it by the perpendicular height, which I don't know what it is. Okay, so I'm going to call it x. So let's multiply by x. Now this time, half the base by the perpendicular height. Well, we know the answer. We know that the answer is 150. So let's just see if we can work it out. Half of 20 is 10. Multiplied by this x is equal to 150. 10 multiplied by the x is equal to 150. What could the x be? Okay, and the way what you would do to solve that is you would divide by 10. This is actually 10 x's. 10 x's, so you divide by 10. You'll divide by 10 on the other side. And x is equal to how many times does 10 fit into 150? 15 times. So 10 multiplied by 15 would equal 150. But what you would do in a method idea is you would divide both sides by 10. Getting rid of the 10 and being left with the 15. Now I'll have to do it here again, all right? So maybe a second one will help. Okay, so area of the triangle is 45. This time we know the base is 15 and I don't know the height. Half the base by perpendicular height is equal to area. Okay, so half stays the same. The base is 15. Multiplied by the perpendicular height, I don't know what it is, so it's x. I'm going to put it in brackets. And then that all equals the answer, which is 45. Half of 15, well, that's just awkward, isn't it? Half of 15 is 7.5 by x is equal to 45. Now we can still do this. So last time it was 10 by x was equal to 150. This time it's 7.5 by x. How did I get rid of the 10? I divided by 10. So I will divide this number by 7.5. So if I do it to the left, I must do it to the right. Divide by 7.5. They cancel and you're just left with an x. How many times does 7.5 fit in to 45? Okay, so 45 divided by 7.5 is obviously equal to 6. So the answer here, x equals 6 centimeters. Okay, and so we would have x equals 6 centimeters here. The height of our triangle was 6 centimeters. Okay, so that's the two questions fully done. Any questions, put them into the chat. Okay, thanks guys.